Okay, so hello everyone, welcome to Anuj Jindal, welcome to RBI 247 session. Tell me if everything is fine with the audio and the video so that we can start with the session. Please confirm quickly if everything is fine with the audio and the video so that we can start. Okay, great. Okay, so in this session we have three news with us. Okay, the first one is very important. Again, this is RBI's guidelines, the master direction for the RRBs, wherein they have set some regulations for the capital adequacy of such banks. Then we have PFRDA's regulations for UPS. We all know what is UPS. UPS stands for Unified Pension Scheme, and we are going to understand what are these regulations. We already have a discussion on the same, that what do we mean by UPS, what is the difference between the UPS and the NPS in our previous session. If you want to know more about what is the difference, what UPS, what kind of features does UPS have, you can just simply go for our previous session. Okay, then we have lastly, we have SEBI's proposal regarding skin in the game rule. We are going to understand what does this mean, skin in the game rule, क्या मतलब है इसका, and we are going to understand what are the proposals. Okay, are they eased in nature, are they flexible in nature, or more and more stringent regulations are being proposed by the SEBI regarding the same. So we are going to understand that. Let's have a look on the first. This is a very important regulation, very important master direction. I am repeating the same. This is very important. You can expect a question from this in phase 1 or in phase 2, or you can simply be asked regarding the same in the descriptive question answer regarding what are the guidelines that are being stated in the master direction of this capital adequacy for the RRBs. Now the question arises, what do we mean by capital adequacy? Why do we need such, we can say, regulation in the RRBs or in banking system as a whole? So capital adequacy की अगर हम बात करें, capital adequacy is with that we are ensuring that banks have enough capital in their hand. They have enough capital or enough money in their hand, that even if at the time of crisis, even if at the time of bad times, banks have enough capital to operate themselves. Okay, and that is the reason that the RBI, that is the regulator of the banking system, wants that RRBs are fully, we can say, adequate in terms of capital. Now, why do we need capital? Why RRBs, or we can say why banks need capital? Because there is a capital risk in, we can say, there is a credit risk in the market. Because there is a credit risk in the market. We all know bank give loan to the customers, right? To the borrowers, right? And whenever a bank gives loan, it is giving a credit to the borrower. It is providing money to the borrower. Now, what if that borrower do not pay back that money? Now, that risk is credit risk. Okay. Now, to ensure that we are minimizing such risk, we are going to have enough money in our hand in order to deal with such money. Because bank, the major kind of risk that bank deal with is credit risk. So as per this, we can say, regulation that are being released by the RBI, the master direction named as Prudential Norms on the Capital Adequacy of RRB, the RBI issued some of the directions regarding the same as per section 35A of the Banking Regulation Act 1949. Very important. It can be simply asked in the examination ki under what section the RBI released such regulations. So this is the answer, that is section 35A under the Banking Act 1949. And the, we can say, the directions are applicable and are effective from 1st April 2025. जो हमने PSL की जो हमने regulations पढ़ी थी, उनकी भी क्या थी डेट? 1st April 2025. So very important, you can just remember it. So सीधा हम point पर आते हैं, that what is the capital adequacy that is to be meant, or we can say that is to be maintained by the RRBs here. So it is 9%. Very important. पहले तो ये याद रखिए that the capital adequacy requirement for the RRBs is 9%. Now the question arises that अगर हम एक बारी कंपेयर कर लेते हैं, अगर हम प्रायोरिटी सेक्टर लैंडिंग की हमने जो रेगुलेशंस सीखी थी, उसमें क्या था, एक ओवरऑल आपको टारगेट दिए हुए थे, देन देयर इज सब टारगेट्स एज वेल, और सब टारगेट्स के अंदर भी बहुत सारी कंडीशंस थी. सेम हैपेंस विद दिस रेगुलेशन. देयर इज अ overall target of 9% of capital adequacy that is to be maintained by the RRB. Now there are many conditions under it, that how much of a particular kind of asset or how much of the particular kind of capital that you are using. Now there are, we can say there is a list of capital that is used in this formula that you are seeing in the screen right now. Okay, to avoid such concentration, to avoid particular, suppose there is a particular kind of component in the capital that is being used by the RRB, and we can say there is a over concentration of that capital. Okay, to avoid such concentration, the RBI says that we are defining the limits for the same, कि आप कितना capital इस formula में लगा सकते हैं, आप कितना capital you can take from your tier 1 capital, from your tier 2 capital, to calculate such CRAR, that is capital adequacy ratio. Okay, so let's have a look that what is the formula that is being stated by the RBI's regulation is eligible capital funds divided by the total risk weighted asset. Now what is capital funds here? The eligible capital funds, it's tier 1 capital and tier 2 capital. So first thing is that whenever a RRB is calculating their CRAR, they can include two types of capital, that is tier 1 capital and tier 2 capital. Now we are going to understand what do we mean by tier 1 capital and tier 2 capital. What kind of components are there that we include in the tier 1 capital and in the tier 2 capital, and out of which how much of a certain kind of component can be included in tier 1 capital and then tier 2 capital. I hope the agenda is clear. Right, I hope the agenda is clear. Let's have a look on the total risk weighted asset. Now whenever we are talking about the capital adequacy ratio, it means that whatever capital the bank have, they have enough capital to cover their risk, to cover their upcoming risk. Now how do we calculate risk? They calculate risk based on the asset. Now what is asset in this case? Bank's asset is the loans that they have given. So whatever loans that are given by the bank and whatever risk are associated with that loan is going to be accumulated. It's going to be accumulated, or we can say is added all together, and then the risk weighted asset is being ascertained. Okay, this is in layperson language in order to make you understand what do we mean by the risk weighted asset. We are also going to understand how do we calculate this risk weighted asset in the upcoming slides, but this much, to understand the upcoming slides we are good to go with this understanding. Okay, so let's have an understanding on the tier 1 capital. Now tier 1 capital is the core capital. Why we are saying it is a core capital? Because it includes equity, it includes the money that belong to the shareholders, and then there we have a lot of reserves in this that are being reserved, or we can say that has been accumulated from the profit that the bank has earned over the period of time. Okay, so that is the reason that it is a core capital. It is a very important capital, we can say. Whenever we look at the health of the bank, we look at the tier 1 capital, which is a core capital, and that has to be healthy in nature, right? So what are the components that we include in tier 1 capital? The first is paid up share capital. Now what do we mean by paid up share capital? It means that whatever money is being kept by the shareholders, of the company, whatever money has been contributed by the shareholders of the company is paid up share capital. The shares that are being issued and we can say allotted to the shareholders, right? And then we have share premiums. Sometimes shares are being issued at a premium, we can say rate, and whatever money is being allotted, we can say whatever money has been collected by the company or bank from this is a share premium money. Then we have share capital deposit. That means the shares are not being allocated, right? They are not being allotted to the shareholders yet, but the money has been taken in advance from them, so it will be accounted as share capital deposit. Then we have statutory and other free reserves. Now statutory reserves are that has to be maintained by the bank as per the law, as per any kind of law. And free reserves are the reserves that are kept by the bank, but they are free in nature. That means there is no specified purposes that has been defined to that particular reserve. That means it can be used for any other purposes. That is the reason their name is free reserves. So there is no specific, we can say, agenda of creating such reserves. So it is free in nature, free reserves. Then we have capital reserves representing the surplus arising out of the sale proceeds of the assets. Okay, now what do we mean by that? We know what is the core business of the bank. It is the core business of the bank is to provide the loans, right? But what if this bank sell any kind of asset? Suppose the bank holds some kind of building. Now they are shutting down that, we can say there was a branch in that particular area, in that particular building, but now this bank decide that we are closing this branch and just we want to just sell this, we can say, land, right? Now whatever money uh, has been realized by such bank from the sale of such building, it's going to be under the capital reserve because it is not a core business of the bank. So whatever money has been collected from the sale of such land, from the sale of such building, will be under the capital reserves. Okay, then revaluation reserves. Gains from revaluing the bank's property can be counted towards the tier 1 capital, but only 45% of their value can be, we can say, accounted in this. Now what do we mean by this? So basically revaluation reserves. Revaluation का मतलब क्या होता है? That we are revaluing it. We are revising the value of the asset. Now suppose there is an asset, we can say it can be land, and the prices of that land keeps on increasing and decreasing, right? Now there is a need to revise that, we can say, the value of that asset periodically, but RBI says that you can revalue it up only 45% of that value. Suppose the price of the building was 10 crore and it has been increased to 15 crore. Now there is an increase of 5 crore, right? Now they are saying that 45% of their value will be accounted. That means whatever 45% of this would be, 5 crore का जितना भी 45% होगा, only that will be added in the tier 1 capital. Only that will be added in the tier 1 capital. Okay, complete 5 crore नहीं लेंगे हम because it is quite risky. The value of the, we can say in this case land, जो asset ली है हमने, it keeps on increasing and decreasing. ठीक है, so the RBI says that only 45% of that fluctuation or 45% of that, we can say, revised value can be taken into consideration in the tier 1 capital, not full amount. So we are discounting the value, the revalue of that asset here. Okay, then we have balances in the P&L account, that is profit and loss account, at the end of the previous financial year. ठीक है, तो जो भी आपका profit and loss आता है, we are going to include that in our tier 1 capital. Then we have perpetual debt instruments which comply with the regulatory requirements and the limit explained ahead. Okay, so the perpetual debt instruments, पहले हम समझ लेते हैं ये होता क्या है. And in this regulation, in this master direction of the RBI, RBI ने PIDs के ऊपर, that is perpetual debt instruments के ऊपर अलग से regulations, we can say, इसी के अंदर include की हुई हैं. A set of a significant amount of regulations are being associated with this only. ठीक है, तो पहले हम देख लेते हैं PDI होता क्या है. The perpetual debt instrument, पहले तो हमें समझ में आ गया that it is a debt instrument, यानी कि the bank are borrowing from the market. The first thing is clear. It is a debt instrument. First is clear. Then it says that it is perpetual in nature. That means a instrument or a debt that is being taken by the bank till infinity. Okay, till the bank exists. ये भी कह सकते हैं, till the bank exists. So basically the banks are borrowing the money and they are not going to return that money back to the holder of that debt instrument. तो इससे फायदा क्या होगा? जो होल्ड करता है उसको क्या फायदा होगा? Why would a person would buy such PDIs from a bank? Because इससे क्या होगा, उन्हें एक periodic basis पे उन्हें क्या मिलेगा? इंटरेस्ट मिलता रहेगा. ठीक है, तो बैंक सेज दैट give me money, say 10,000 rupees of money is being borrowed from this person, और 10,000 के बदले में they are getting 8% of interest every year, ठीक है, till the bank exists, and this return is कंटिन्यूस इन नेचर, मतलब कि इसका कोई पीरियड नहीं है, एक स्पेसिफाइड पीरियड में एंड नहीं हो रहा है, दैट इज व्हाई इट इज परपेचुअल डेट इंस्ट्रूमेंट्स, ठीक है। आई होप इट इज क्लियर, पीडीआईस क्लियर है। आगे जाके हम इसके बारे में क्या पढ़ेंगे, और भी ज्यादा रेगुलेशंस पढ़ेंगे। whenever a RRB is going to issue such PDIs, there are some conditions, there are some limits, there are some regulations that are being allocated by the RBI on such RRBs. इन्हें हम पढ़ेंगे। पहले हम हमारा जो एजेंडा है टू अंडरस्टैंड टीयर 1 कैपिटल, टीयर 2 कैपिटल, फिर इनका लिमिटेशन, उस पे आते हैं, ठीक है। तो पीडीआईस क्लियर है हमें। देन व्हाट आर द थिंग्स दैट वी आर नॉट गोइंग टू इंक्लूड इन द टीयर 1 कैपिटल इज गुडविल। गुडविल क्या होती है, दैट इज अ एसेट, और वी कैन से इट इज अ इंटेंजिबल एसेट। अब इंटेंजिबल एसेट कैसी होती है, मान लीजिए मेरा बिजनेस है एंड ओवर द पीरियड ऑफ टाइम, ओवर द पीरियड ऑफ 20 years आई हैव गेन्ड द, वी कैन से द नेम ऑफ माई ब्रांड, ठीक है। नाउ एवरीबडी रिकॉग्नाइजेस मी फ्रॉम द ब्रांड, okay, suppose there is a brand named as Gucci, right? Everybody recognize that brand, right? And it has earned a goodwill, right? People are buying such expensive clothes not because it is qualitative, or we can say it is very fashionable in nature, but it has earned its, we can say, name over the period of time. अब उसका नाम चलता है, उस कंपनी का नाम चलता है इन द मार्केट, ठीक है, तो दैट इज गुडविल। इट हैज क्रिएटेड गुडविल इन द, वी कैन से इन द इंडस्ट्री, ठीक है। तो ऐसी जो इंटेंजिबल एसेट्स होती हैं, वी आर नॉट गोइंग टू इंक्लूड दैट इन द टीयर 1 कैपिटल। व्हाई? बिकॉज ये इनको आप फाइनेंस नहीं कर सकते जल्दी से, ठीक है, ये जल्दी से लिक्विडेट नहीं कर सकती आपको, दैट इज द रीजन इंटेंजिबल एसेट्स लाइक गुडविल आर नॉट इंक्लूडेड इन द टीयर 1 कैपिटल। Then we have losses. Why do we include losses in the tier 1 capital, right? So we are not going to include losses in the tier 1 capital. Then we have pension related items. Now they are saying, suppose the RRBs are keeping a lot of money of pension that is to be paid to the employees that were working in the RRB. Now this is a liability of the RRB. So pension, whatever the amount is being set aside by the RRB as a part of pension, we are not going to include that in the tier 1 capital because it is a liability, right? Then it says if the pension plan is an asset, that is more money is set aside than the requirement. Suppose the RRBs was required to pay a pension liability of say 10 crore, but they have maintained 12 crore. Now RRB says that, see, I have created more, we can say I have set more money aside than required, so I can count this 2 crore rupees towards tier 1 capital. So RBI says no, you can't keep these 2 crore rupees as a part of tier 1 capital. You cannot count these money as a part of tier 1 capital. They are saying such thing. Okay, so you cannot deduct, you are simply going to deduct from this money from the tier 1 capital. Okay, so basically they are saying that pension is a liability of the RRB. We are not going to include whatever money is being set aside by the RRB with regarding to pension. We are not going to include that in the tier 1 capital because that is very, we can say the amount of liability keeps on increasing and decreasing, right? So the lastly it says some extra deductions that are being required if NPA is less. Suppose there was a provision that is to be made by the RRBs of 5 crore rupees, ठीक है। NPAs क्या होते हैं? NPAs are the bad loans. NPAs are the bad loans. Now the bank has to maintain a provision for the same. Bank have to maintain a provision for the same. Suppose this provision, whatever provision they have to be made, they should have made, they have made less. Suppose 5 crore has to be made and they have created only 2 crore. So they are saying that there is a deficiency of 3 crore rupees in such provision, and we are going to deduct such deficiency of 3 crore rupees from your tier 1 capital because you are not maintaining your provision. The creation of such provision and maintaining such provision is much more important, and that is the reason we are going to cover that loss of provision from your tier 1 capital. They are saying income wrongly showed in the bad loans. Whatever income that you have wrongly showed in the bad loans, we are going to deduct that from your tier 1 capital. Any other amount that that bank might owe unexpectedly. Okay, any kind of money that is being a liability that comes figure out to be a liability for the bank, we are going to deduct that from the tier 1 capital. I hope tier 1 capital is clear. Then we have two things here. We have deferred tax assets and we have deferred tax liability. We are going to understand what do we mean by this. So basically, one is tax asset and one is tax liability. Deferred means whatever is in future, just for understanding. Now what happens? That suppose there is a company, they have calculated their estimated tax at 10 crore rupees, and the tax authority says that your tax liability is just 8 crore rupees. So you have paid more. I have paid more taxes than required. And the tax authority says that you have paid 2 crore extras to us. So this is a kind of asset. Next time whenever I'm going to pay my tax, I'm going to pay less of this 2 crore rupees, right? And this is the reason that this is going to be a tax asset, which is deferred in nature. Deferred tax asset. Okay. The opposite of this deferred tax asset is deferred tax liability. This means that here the reason was whatever was the requirement. In this case, I have paid more. What would be opposite? That whatever was required, I have paid less. Suppose 8 crore was the money that I have to pay as my tax liability, right? But I have paid only 6 crore rupees. I have paid only 6 crore rupees. So this 2 crore rupees is going to be my deferred tax liability. Deferred tax liability. Okay. I hope it is clear. Then one more thing that I would like to tell you, that whenever a company, or we can say in this case bank, incurs losses, on losses the company do not pay any kind of tax, right? Because टैक्स तो प्रॉफिट्स के ऊपर लगता है, लॉसेस के ऊपर थोड़े ना लगता है. तो लॉसेस जो होते हैं, इट कैन बी कैरी फॉरवर्ड बाय अ बैंक टिल 8 years. अभी हमने यहाँ पर एग्जांपल लिया है, ठीक है. मान लीजिए जो बैंक्स होते हैं वो कैरी फॉरवर्ड कर लेते हैं अपने लॉसेस, ठीक है. तो टिल 8 years तक दे कैन कैरी फॉरवर्ड. तो जो लॉसेस जो होते हैं यहाँ पर लॉसेस, दे आर गोइंग टू रिड्यूस योर टैक्स लाइबिलिटी, ठीक है. तो क्या मैं इसे अपना डेफर्ड टैक्स एसेट में गिन सकती हूँ? बिकॉज दे आर ऑल्सो, वी कैन से, रिड्यूसिंग माई टैक्स लाइबिलिटी. सो कैन आई काउंट इट टूवर्ड्स माई डेफर्ड टैक्स एसेट? नो. ठीक है. लॉसेस हमारे टैक्स जरूर कम करते हैं, बट वी आर नॉट गोइंग टू इंक्लूड दैट इन अवर डेफर्ड टैक्स एसेट. तो बेसिकली जो एसेट है, टैक्स की जो लाइबिलिटी है, वो दो तरीके से कम हो सकती है. या तो फिर कंपनी ने लॉसेस अर्न करे हैं इसलिए, या तो फिर कंपनी ने एक्स्ट्रा टैक्सेस पे कर दिए, राइट. तो ये दो तरीके हो सकते हैं जहां से डेफर्ड टैक्स एसेट्स आ सकते हैं. अब ये क्यों बताया है? बिकॉज we are going to understand that whether we can include such assets or liability in our tier 1 capital or not. We are going to understand that. तो अगर DTA यानी कि deferred tax asset अगर losses से आ रहे हैं आपको, then we are not going to include that in our tier 1 capital. We are not going to include that in our tier 1 capital. We are simply going to deduct that. We are simply going to reduce that. If the losses, if the deferred tax assets are coming from a difference in the timings, suppose there was some difference in the timings and due to which such DTA has occurred, due to which such tax asset has occurred. अगर वहां से आ रहे हैं, then we can allow to add that in our tier 1 capital. But इसमें भी क्या लगा दी, कंडीशन लगा दी है, that you can add it up to 10% of the tier 1 capital. Only up to 10% of the tier 1 capital. ठीक है. मान लीजिए आपका tier 1 capital कितना है, 10 crore है. What is going to be 10% of this? 1 crore. So 1 crore तक का you have limit, you can add DTA up to it, up to this amount. Simple. Then they are saying DTL, that is deferred tax liability. You cannot just include that in your tier 1 capital, but they are saying that you can reduce, or we can say you can offset such liability from your DTA. Suppose your tax DTL is 50 lakh rupees. Your DTA stands at 1 crore rupees. So they are saying that you can offset it. You can offset it. So your net DTA would be 50 lakh rupees in this case. But there are some conditions. They are saying that your tax authority must agree with such accounting. ठीक है? That they allow you to offset such amount. अगर नहीं वो allow करते हैं, then you cannot include it. अगर वो allow करते हैं, then you can offset such liability from your DTA. ठीक है, हमें बाकी सब कंडीशंस में नहीं जाना है, वो बहुत ज़्यादा हो जाएंगी, and that is not even required for your examination as well. And we are going to just understand this only, that DTA जो है up to 10% तक ऐड कर सकते हैं ऑफ द टीयर 1 कैपिटल, अगर वो टाइम डिफरेंसेस की वजह से आ रहे हैं. अगर किसी और पर्पस की वजह से आ रहे हैं, लॉसेस की वजह से आ रहे हैं, वी आर नॉट गोइंग टू इंक्लूड दैट एंड वी आर गोइंग टू सिंपली डिडक्ट दैम फ्रॉम द टीयर 1 कैपिटल. DTL हम इंक्लूड नहीं करते हैं अगर टैक्स अथॉरिटी नहीं मानती है. अगर DTL टैक्स अथॉरिटी मानती है, देन वी आर गोइंग टू सिंपली ऑफसेट इट फ्रॉम द DTA. ठीक है, अब बात करते हैं हम टीयर 2 कैपिटल की. टीयर 2 कैपिटल इज द बैकअप कैपिटल. Why? Because we used to include long-term loans in here, and we also include general provision in this. ठीक है, so we call it as backup capital, right? And what kind of things are being included in this? First is general provision and loss reserves, and then we have investment fluctuation reserves. First is, we all know, general provision that are being created for the general purposes and the losses and for the losses, right? Now they are saying that sometime the bank keeps aside some of the money in order to in just case in some loans go bad in future, ensuring that whatever, वो भी bad loans हुए नहीं है, but they have estimated that these loans can turn into a bad loan. ठीक है, तो उसके regarding जो भी इन्होंने provision बनाए हैं, that is going to be a part of this tier 2 capital. Okay, then we have investment fluctuation reserve. That means the investment which is fluctuating, its prices are fluctuating, such as bonds. Now we know that the value of the bonds in the market keeps on increasing and decreasing, right? The market value of the bonds keeps on increasing and decreasing. Now they are saying that whenever a bank revises their value of their investment, whatever ups and downs are there in the investment, we are going to include, we can say, whatever reserves are being kept for the same, we are going to include it into the tier 2 capital. ठीक है, तो दो चीजें हैं आपके पास tier 2 capital में. Now they say that there are two things, general provision and the IFR, and there is a limit. There is a limit on how much you can include it in your capital adequacy ratio. अब यहाँ पर हम किसकी बात कर रहे हैं? 9% वाले रूल की बात कर रहे हैं. दैट इस 9% में भी आप टीयर 2 कैपिटल में से क्या दो चीजें हैं आपके पास, उसमें भी आप कितना कितना इंक्लूड कर सकते हैं, राइट? दे आर सेइंग only 1.25% of the risk weighted asset of this general provision will be included. ठीक है, आपका जितना भी risk weighted asset है उसका 1.25% of such provision we are going to add in the contribution towards this 9%. ठीक है, then we have no limit on the things that are being there. That means reserves that are being kept for the investment fluctuation, there is no such limit. You can go for 100% as well. There is no limit on such whatever. So basically this reserve can be fully used towards this tier 2 capital for contributing towards this 9% capital adequacy ratio. ठीक है, तो हम 9% वाले रूल की ही यहाँ पर बात कर रहे हैं, that how much limit are being there from the tier 1 capital and from the tier 2 capital. ओके पहले देखते हैं. Bank must have at least 7% of their risk weighted assets as tier 1 capital after making the required adjustment. ठीक है, they are saying that 7% should be coming from the tier 1 capital. ठीक है, the 7% from out of this 9%, the 7% comes from the tier 1 capital. What it says that out of the 7%, they are saying that perpetual debt instrument can count up to 1.5%. Out of the 7%, only 1.5% of the PDIs can be added in this 7%. ठीक है, तो there is a maximum limit on PDIs that can contribute towards this tier 1 capital, right? If a bank raises more than 1.5% through the PDIs, it can still count extra amount as tier 1 capital, but only if it already meets the 7% of the tier 1 capital first. ठीक है, ये और ऐड कर सकते हैं इसमें, पर इनको इसे मेंटेन करना पड़ेगा. दैट मीन 7% का जो पहले रिक्वायरमेंट है, मिनिमम आपको 7% तो करना ही करना है. this 7% from the tier 1 capital तो करना ही करना है, and you can add up to more until this condition is being we can say satisfied. बैंक कैन काउंट जनरल प्रोविजन एंड रिजर्व्स. अब ये किसकी बात कर रहे हैं? ये टीयर 2 कैपिटल की बात कर रहे हैं. जनरल प्रोविजन एंड रिजर्व्स आर अ पार्ट ऑफ टीयर 2 कैपिटल. ठीक है, तो दे आर सेइंग दैट these reserves can be counted up to 1.2%. ठीक है, अब टीयर 2 कैपिटल की बात कर रहे हैं जिसमें से जनरल प्रोविजन एंड लॉस रिजर्व्स को दे कैन count up to 1.25%. ठीक है, the tier 2 capital cannot be more than of the tier 1 capital. Now there is a limit on the tier 2 capital. It says 100%. You can use just 100% of the tier 2 capital till 100% of the tier 1 capital. Let me repeat it again. That means tier 1 capital, tier 2 capital, tier 1 capital से ज्यादा नहीं हो सकती. Suppose 20 करोड़ की tier 1 capital है, तो टीयर 2 कैपिटल ज्यादा से ज्यादा कितनी हो सकती है? 20 करोड़. दैट्स इट. ठीक है, इससे ज्यादा नहीं हो सकती है. ठीक है, उसमें से भी आपको कितना कंट्रीब्यूट, अगर आप जनरल प्रोविजन और लॉस रिजर्व से अगर आप पैसा कंट्रीब्यूट कर रहे हैं टुवर्ड्स दिस कैपिटल एडिक्वेसी रेशियो, ये भी आपका 1.25% से ज्यादा नहीं हो सकता. ठीक है, सो आई होप इट इज क्लियर. यहाँ पर मैंने एक सिंप्लीफाइड तरीके से आपको बताने की कोशिश करी है दैट मिनिमम टीयर 1 कैपिटल आपका कितना होना चाहिए? 7%. पीडीआईज कितना कंट्रीब्यूट कर सकते हैं? 1.5%. ठीक है, एंड दे कैन गेट मोर अगर आपका दिस कंडीशन इज बीइंग सेटिस्फाइड. देन जनरल प्रोविजन टीयर 2 कैपिटल में कितना कंट्रीब्यूट कर सकते हैं? 1.25%. एंड टीयर 2 लिमिट कितनी है? इट कैन नॉट बी मोर देन टीयर 1 कैपिटल. सो दिस चार्ट इज वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट. दिस टेबल इज वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट. मार्केट इंपॉर्टेंट. यहां से आ सकता है कुछ भी. ठीक है, आपसे टीयर 1 कैपिटल की लिमिट पूछी जा सकती है, टीयर 2 कैपिटल की लिमिट पूछी जा सकती है. तो बेसिकली अगर आपको चार्ट की फॉर्म में बनाना हो तो इट वुड बी लाइक दिस. ठीक है, यहां पर कंडीशन है 1.25 की, एंड यहां पर कंडीशन है 100% से ज्यादा नहीं हो सकता ऑफ टीयर 1 कैपिटल. ठीक है, यहां पर भी एक कंडीशन है आउट ऑफ दिस 1.5% अप टू फ्रॉम पीडीआई. ठीक है, तो ये आपको याद रखना है. आई होप इट इज क्लियर. ठीक है, नाउ देयर आर सम रेगुलेशन रिलेटेड टू परपेचुअल डेट इंस्ट्रूमेंट. हमें पता है परपेचुअल डेट इंस्ट्रूमेंट्स क्या होते हैं? बैंक बोरो करते हैं पैसा और उसे वापस नहीं देते, पर उसके बदले में रिटर्न देते हैं टिल perpetuity. That means till the bank exists, they keep on paying that interest over the period of time. तो इसे ऐसा कंसीडर कीजिए कि बैंक ने बोरो तो किया है, बट दे आर कंसिडरिंग नाउ इट एज इट्स ऑन मनी. ठीक है, अब वो उसकी खुद की मनी है, क्योंकि अब वापस तो करनी नहीं है. ठीक है, तो उसकी मनी है, खुद की मनी है. पीडीएस यहाँ पर खुद का कोर कैपिटल में गिना जा रहा है. ठीक है, समझ रहे हैं आप? तो अब यहाँ पर देयर आर सम वी कैन से कंडीशंस, limitations and regulations on the same. ठीक है, तो पहला, PDIs must be issued in the Indian rupees. They must be issued fully paid by the RRBs. ठीक है, वो इशू भी करने हैं, and then it should be fully paid by the RRB. By the RRB itself. That means bank is going to issue such PDIs. It will not be issued by special purpose entities. अब इसे समझते हैं. कुछ कंपनीज होती हैं, कंपनी के एग्जांपल से समझते हैं. कुछ कंपनीज होती हैं, अगर उन्हें लोन लेना होता है, अगर उन्हें बोरोइंग करनी होती है, तो वो क्या करते हैं, एक और एंटिटी बना देते हैं, स्मॉल एंटिटी बना देते हैं, दैट इज वर्किंग अंडर इट. ठीक है. अब वो एंटिटी एक स्पेशल पर्पस के लिए बनाई जाती है. अब वो स्पेशल पर्पस यहाँ पर कुछ भी हो सकता है कि यहाँ पर बोरोइंग्स के लिए दैट स्पेशल एंटिटी इज बीइंग फॉर्म्ड. ठीक है. अब यहाँ पर आरबीआई कह रहा है दैट अ बैंक, whenever a bank is going to borrow such money, they are going to issue such perpetual debt instrument by itself, by bank only. They cannot create such special entities for borrowing such money. ठीक है. The PDIs are perpetual. They do not have maturity date. अगर हम दूसरे debt instruments की बात करें, मान लीजिए अगर हम bonds की बात करते हैं, they have a specified period of time. मान लीजिए 5 साल के लिए इशू किया है, 10 साल के लिए इशू किया है. बट अगर हम PDIs की बात करें, they do not have a maturity period because they are existing until the bank exists, right? So they do not have a maturity date and can't offer incentive to repay early. तो यहाँ पर जो इनका रूल है कि हम आपको पे कर देंगे, वी विल पे बैक, और वी कैन से हम आपको रिडीम कर देंगे आपका पैसा, तो दैट इज नॉट इन दिस केस. ठीक है. दिस इज नॉट अवेलेबल इन दिस केस ऑफ पीडीआईज. इंटरेस्ट रेट कैन बी फिक्स्ड एंड फ्लोटिंग. ठीक है. फिक्स्ड यानी कि फिक्स्ड रह सकता है ओवर द पीरियड ऑफ टाइम. 8% है तो 8% रहेगा थ्रू आउट द पीडीआईज एग्जिस्ट. एंड फ्लोटिंग रेट मतलब कि दे आर रिवाइजिंग देयर इंटरेस्ट रेट्स. ठीक है, ओवर द पीरियड ऑफ टाइम. Then we have interest rate on the instruments cannot change based on the bank credit or financial health. Now they are saying that banks cannot change their interest rate based on its credit ratings. Okay, so this has been prohibited by the RBI here. Now they are saying that PDIs we all know this is a debt instrument. They are saying that you cannot use this as put option. Put option we all know. Put option mean that you are selling it. Okay, you are selling it. Now this has been we can say derived by the this instrument holder. Okay, and this is not a provision here that you cannot redeem it or you cannot sell it back to the bank in such case. तो यहाँ पर ये जो put option है, you cannot exercise such option. They are saying that this means investor cannot ask the bank to repay the money early. ठीक है, जो कि इस PDI का ऑप्शन ही नहीं है, रूल ही नहीं है. स्टेप अप ऑप्शन. अब स्टेप अप ऑप्शन की क्या बात कर रहे हैं, दैट दिस मीन्स बैंक कैन नॉट ऑफर हाई इंटरेस्ट रेट आफ्टर अ सर्टन पीरियड टू इनकरेज अर्ली पेमेंट्स. Now what they are saying that, अब इस चीज को समझते हैं होता क्या है. अब यहाँ पर कह दिया है कि होल्डर जो है, द पीडीआई का जो होल्डर है, they cannot start or we can say drive the fact that they are selling the PDIs back to the bank. ठीक है, रीपेमेंट नहीं कर सकते. But the same can be done by the RRB. ठीक है, the same can be done by the bank. बैंक जब चाहे वो रिडीम कर सकते हैं इस पीडीआईज को. दे कैन रिडीम सच पीडीआई. दैट मीन्स दे कैन रीपे द मनी बैक टू द होल्डर्स हेयर. ठीक है, अब ये बैंक की तरफ से इनिशिएट होना चाहिए, होल्डर की तरफ से इनिशिएट नहीं होना चाहिए, तब इसे माना जाएगा. इसके ऊपर भी कंडीशंस लगाई हैं दैट एग्जिस्ट करना चाहिए वो पीडीआई फॉर मिनिमम ऑफ 5 years. ठीक है, इसके ऊपर भी कंडीशन लगाई कि 5 साल तक एग्जिस्ट करना चाहिए. और अगर आप रिडीम कर रहे हैं यानी कि आप पैसे वापस दे रहे हैं टू द होल्डर, तो उस केस में आपको क्या चाहिए, आरबीआई का अप्रूवल चाहिए फॉर डूइंग द सेम. ये दो कंडीशंस हैं अगर बैंक इनिशिएट करना चाह रहा है दिस कॉल ऑप्शन. यहाँ पर कॉल ऑप्शन का क्या मतलब है, यही है कि आप पैसे वापस दे रहे हैं और आपने अपने पीडीआईस वापस खरीद लिए हैं फ्रॉम द होल्डर्स. राइट, ये चीज क्लियर है. अब स्टेप अप ऑप्शन में क्या होता है, स्टेप अप ऑप्शन में होता है दैट यू आर इंक्रीजिंग द इंटरेस्ट रेट. मान लीजिए the PDIs are existing here for the 5 years. ठीक है, ये बैंक है, बैंक ने PDIs इशू करे थे, अब वो 5 साल हो गए हैं. नाउ दिस बैंक सेज आफ्टर 5 years अभी क्या इंटरेस्ट रेट चल रहा है, 8% चल रहा है. 5 साल के बाद मैं इसका इंटरेस्ट रेट 12% कर दूंगा, ठीक है। इन्वेस्टर्स कहेंगे वाओ, ठीक है, अब मुझे क्या मिलेगा, हायर इंटरेस्ट रेट मिलेगा, ठीक है। नाउ अब जो इन्वेस्टर्स होंगे वो यहां पर जाके, अगर बैंक ने इनिशिएट किया भी रिडीम करना, तो यहां पर जाके क्या करेंगे, इन्वेस्टर सेल नहीं करेंगे, नहीं करेंगे, एंड दे विल कीप देयर पीडीआईज इन ऑर्डर टू इंटरेस्ट हाई इंटरेस्ट, इन ऑर्डर टू अर्न हाई इंटरेस्ट। तो यहाँ पर जो बैंक्स होते हैं यहाँ पर क्या करते हैं, पहले ही साल में, पहले ही 5 साल में सारा पेमेंट कर देते हैं, सारा ही पेमेंट रीपे कर देते हैं, और अपने कम इंटरेस्ट रेट, अपना हायर इंटरेस्ट रेट कॉस्ट बचाने के लिए यहीं पर ही सब कुछ पे कर देते हैं, ठीक है। तो इससे क्या होता है, जो इन्वेस्टर होता है वो इस ट्रैप में फंस जाता है, दे आर नॉट इनिशिएटिंग, दे कैन नॉट डू एनीथिंग फॉर दिस 5 years, ठीक है। तो इसीलिए वो कह रहे हैं कि दिस काइंड ऑफ ट्रैप, जहां पर आप प्रोमिस कर रहे हैं इन्वेस्टर्स को कि आप आगे जाके हायर इंटरेस्ट रेट देंगे, तो इन्वेस्टर क्या होता है, यहाँ पर ट्रैप हो जाता है फॉर दिस पीरियड, एंड दैट इज द रीजन दे आर सेइंग कि आप स्टेप अप ऑप्शन नहीं दे सकते, ठीक है, जहां पर आप इनकरेज कर रहे हैं अर्ली रीपेमेंट, ठीक है। तो दे आर सेइंग कि आप स्टेप अप ऑप्शंस नहीं कर सकते बेसिकली, ठीक है। आगे देखते हैं। Then there is lock-in clause. Banks may not allowed to pay interest on the PDIs in certain situation to protect its financial health. ठीक है, अब यहाँ पर आरबीआई कह रही है इन केस अगर आप अपना CRAR मेंटेन नहीं कर पा रहे, इट इज सिंपली बिलो द रिक्वायर्ड, आपको 9% का मेंटेन करना है, यू आर नॉट एबल टू मेंटेन इट, व्हाई, बिकॉज यू हैव अ लॉट ऑफ डेट ऑन योर सेल्फ, आपको बहुत सारा इंटरेस्ट पे करना है। इस केस में आरबीआई कह रहा है कोई बात नहीं, आप इंटरेस्ट पीडीआईज को मत पे कीजिए, in such case do not pay interest to the PDIs holder, ठीक है, because our agenda is to maintain more and more CRAR, financial health of the bank is more important here, then it can skip it. It says that RBI may interest payment in loss situation also, ठीक है। अब वो यहाँ पर क्या कह रहे हैं, that a bank is earning losses, the bank is incurring a lot of losses, but still RBI can allow them to maintain, or we can say the RBI can allow them to pay the interest on such PDIs. Kyun? Because the CRAR, because they are able to maintain this CRAR requirement. If their CRAR stay above the required level, the RBI may allow them to pay the interest even in the loss situation. So the banks get the prior approval from the RBI in such case. They are saying that interest is non-cumulative in nature. Suppose now the banks issued PDIs, right? For the first year, they paid all the interest. Second year, they paid all the interest. Till 5 years, they paid all interest. 6th year, they didn't pay any interest. 7th year, they paid the interest. Now they are going to pay such interest for the 7th year only, not for the 6th year. So they are saying that you cannot accumulate the interest. It's not like that. In the 7th year, you will get interest for the 7th year as well and for the 6th year as well. No, you are only going to get interest for the 7th year only. Okay. So once the interest payment is being skipped by the bank, it is skipped. You are not going to receive any interest on that. Now the reporting for the same. Now the RBI is going to regulate such, we can say, reporting, and NABARD को भी आपको इन्फॉर्म करना है रिगार्डिंग द सेम। अब यहाँ पर दो चीजें, जो आरबीआई है दैट रेगुलेट्स द आरआरबीज, और सुपरवाइज कौन करता है, हु सुपरवाइजेस आरआरबीज, द NABARD सुपरवाइजेस आरआरबीज। तो यहाँ पर जो रिपोर्टिंग है वो दोनों को करनी है, टू द आरबीआई एज वेल एंड टू द NABARD एज वेल रिगार्डिंग द सेम। इफ यू आर स्किपिंग सच इंटरेस्ट रेट, ठीक है, इंटरेस्ट रेट की बात करें, इंटरेस्ट रेट अगर आपने स्किप किया है, देन यू आर गोइंग टू इन्फॉर्म, गिव अ रिपोर्ट रिगार्डिंग द सेम टू द आरबीआई एंड टू द NABARD. आई विल टेक योर डाउट्स एट द एंड ऑफ द सेशन. ओके, देन सीनियोरिटी ऑफ द क्लेम. अब यहाँ पर सीनियोरिटी ऑफ द क्लेम का क्या मतलब है, वेन एवर देर इज अ क्लेम, मान लीजिए बैंक है, बैंक करप्ट हो गया, बंद हो गया, इट इज शट डाउन नाउ, which holder विच वी कैन से बोरोवर इज गोइंग टू बी पेड फर्स्ट, ठीक है। तो पीडीआई को कहां पर स्टैंड करवाया गया है, मान लीजिए बैंक्स जो हैं पैसे कहाँ कहाँ से उठाते हैं, डिबेंचर से उठाते हैं, इक्विटी से उठाते हैं, अब पीडीआई से भी उठाते हैं, राइट। एंड लोन लिया है बैंक से, कुछ बैंक से लोन लिया है किसी और बैंक से, एंड सो फोर्थ। तो इनकी क्या प्रायोरिटी क्या रहेगी, क्या रैंकिंग रहेगी इन टर्म्स ऑफ क्लेम, ठीक है। किसका क्लेम पहले सेटल डाउन किया जाएगा। तो मान लीजिए डिबेंचर्स को पहले पे किया जाता है, देन दे आर सेइंग कि बैंक्स को जो लोन दिया है, बैंक से जो आपने लोन लिया है उनको सेकेंडली आप पे करेंगे, देन पीडीआई को आप पे करेंगे, देन लास्टली इक्विटी वालों का नंबर सबसे लास्ट में आएगा। तो दे आर सेइंग after all other creditors, if the bank is shut down or liquidated, PDIs are perpetual. They will not lose value over the time for the capital adequacy purpose. So the PDIs investor get before the equity. ये आपको याद रखना है, दैट इक्विटी वालों से पहले मिलेगा बिफोर द पीडीआईस, ठीक है। तो यहाँ पर इनकी सीनियोरिटी ऑफ क्लेम यहाँ पर ये रैंक किया दैट दे विल गेट मनी बिफोर द पीडीआईस। देयर इज नो रिक्वायरमेंट फॉर द सीआरआर एसएलआर फॉर सच पीडीआईस, ठीक है। जितना भी मनी बोरो किया गया है फ्रॉम सच सीआरआर, फ्रॉम सच पीडीआई, फ्रॉम सच इंस्ट्रूमेंट, द बैंक इज नॉट रिक्वायर्ड required to maintain any CRR or SLR for the same, ठीक है। RRBs cannot invest PDIs issued by other bank, ठीक है। किसी और बैंक ने PDI इशू की है, RRB नहीं इन्वेस्ट कर सकते, ठीक है। So there is some restriction on the same. RRBs cannot sell to retail investors, foreign portfolio investors and NRIs. इन तीन पार्टीज को you cannot issue PDIs. RRBs cannot give loan यूजिंग द पीडीआईज एज अ सिक्योरिटी, ठीक है। ये इंस्ट्रूमेंट्स को आप एज सिक्योरिटी देकर, एज कोलेट्रल देकर यू कैन नॉट गिव लोन्स यूजिंग देयर पीडीआईज, ठीक है। रिपोर्टिंग, यू हैव टू रिपोर्ट रिगार्डिंग द इशुएंस ऑफ सच पीडीआई टू द नबार्ड, ठीक है। अगर आप पीडीआई इशू कर रहे हैं, यू हैव टू सेंड रिपोर्ट टू द नबार्ड फॉर द सेम। नाउ द मास्टर डायरेक्शन वर डिवाइडेड इनटू द चैप्टर्स, ठीक है। तो चैप्टर 3 जो किसके बारे में बात करता है, रिस्क वेटेड एसेट के बारे में बात करता है। तो बेसिकली ये सब क्या कह रहा है, वी विल अंडरस्टैंड इट इन सिंपल टर्म्स। नाउ आरबीआई सेज दैट आई हैव ऑलरेडी सेट अ पर्टिकुलर रिस्क वेट, I have already set a particular risk weight in terms of percentage to a particular kind of loan. We already know this fact, ठीक है। They are saying that suppose for the consumer loan, RBI set 100% of the risk weight, and for the housing loan they have set 50% on the risk weight, and for the government securities they have kept 0% of the risk weight. Okay, now they are saying how will you compute your risk weight asset. Now they are saying suppose consumer loan में they have invested 100 crore, housing loan में they have invested 50 crore, and in the government security they have invested how much, 100 crore. Now their respective risk weight will be multiplied, say 100 crore, 50 crore, 50% and 0%. Okay, this would be nil, this would be 25 crore, this would be say 100 crore, right? So your total risk asset in this case is 125 crore. So this is how you are going to calculate your risk weight asset. Okay, so you can see if there is some kind of calculation mistake. I hope it is fine, but this is how you are going to calculate your risk weight asset. Okay, this has been we can say written here in simple terms. Now the reporting to NABARD. Now they are saying that every year RRBs need to send a report to the NABARD, to their local NABARD office. Okay, the report shows how much capital is being the bank have and what is the CRAR, and it must follow the format that is being given by the RBI. It must be signed by the 2 authorized bank official and must be sent soon after the banks have finalized their annual accounts. Okay, so NABARD हमें पता चल गया है that RBI is the one who regulates it. ठीक है, RBI ने regulation issue करी है, the RBI is the one who gives regulations to the RRBs. But NABARD is the one who looks after the RRBs, who supervises the RRBs, and that is the reason, as per this reporting requirement, the RRBs are required to report every year regarding their CRAR, regarding their capital adequacy to the NABARD. ठीक है, with this we are done with the first news. Let's come to the second news, wherein PFRDA give regulations regarding the UPS and the NPS. UPS हमें पता है, it stands for Unified Pension Scheme, and it is under the NPS. So basically PFRDA has issued some regulations regarding the UPS, and it is going to be effective from 1st April 2025. Now what is the eligibility criteria for UPS? So basically employees that are as of 1st April or after this date those are covered under the NPS. New recruits joining on or after the, okay, so this is existing one as of 1st, ठीक है, so before this date they are going to be covered under the NPS. So after April 1st 2025, any new employee joining government service can join this. Who also can join this? Retired and deceased employees who are retired by the age, due to their voluntary retirement, due to फंडामेंटल रूल ऑफ 56J. अब ये क्या है? जहां पर कंपल्सरी रिटायरमेंट दी जाती है, दैट इज बाय द कंपनी इटसेल्फ दे आर बीइंग आस्क्ड टू रिटायर और टू लीव. ठीक है, then if a retired employee passes away, their legally wedded spouse can be eligible for this UPS. ठीक है, all these are going to be a people who are eligible for the UPS, and this is once chosen, once you have choose that you are going to you want your pension scheme to be under UPS, it is going to be reserved, it is going to be same for entire your retirement period, and it is not going to be changed, it cannot be reversed. ठीक है, so the decision to enroll must be made within 3 months from April 1 2025. So you employees, the government employees have 3 months with them to decide whether they want to be under the UPS or under the NPS. So how the contribution under the UPS is going to be made? So employees must contribute 10% of their basic and the dearness allowance. If applicable, non-practicing allowance is also included in this. अब non-practicing allowance क्या होता है? Suppose there is a government doctor. Okay, now doctors are not allowed to have their private clinic, right? They are not allowed to have their private clinic, but still they are a employee. ठीक है, they are employee who are working for the government hospital. So ये जो opportunity है private clinic खोलने की, they are losing this such opportunity for this job because government allow नहीं करती है. तो इसके लिए government pay them extra allowance of NPA. ठीक है, इसे हम कहेंगे NPA. ये जो extra allowance दिया जा रहा है to these employees, they can also include such amount towards this basic pay and dearness allowance. The amount is deposited in the employee's permanent retirement account number. Now this is a account number, 12-digit account number, who register themselves under the NPS. The central government will match the employee's contribution by depositing the equal amount in the pran. So suppose 10% is being contributed by the employee, 10% will also be contributed by the government here, which is central government. The government will also add 8.5% to this with the combination of basic pay and DA. So along with this 10%, the employees are also, the government is also contributing 8.5% towards this contribution. So basically they are contributing 8.5%, wherein employees contributing 10%, right? 10% is being done by the employees and 18.5% is being done by the government. The employees completing at least 10 years of qualifying the service will receive minimum assured pension of 10,000 rupees. तो 10,000 rupees तो आपको minimum assured है under this UPS, And what is the requirement? That you must have completed your 10 years of services. Okay. So these all are the regulations for the UPS. Now we are going to understand the third news, which is SEBI's proposal with regard to skin in the game rule. So they have made some revision. They are just proposing such revision. It can be implemented anytime. So basically, what do we mean by skin in the game rule? Now, as the name tells you that in the game the skin is involved. Now, what is the purpose of this? Suppose there are some key stakeholders. There are some key stakeholders in the company, right? There are some key stakeholders in the company. Now these key stakeholders invest in their own company, but they can sell it at any time, right? They already know many of the information regarding the company. Suppose they already know that this company is not going to do well in the upcoming year. We can sell it now. We can sell all the shares of this company right now, or we can simply escape. We can simply escape from such losses. But the person, or we can say the shareholders who are not aware of this fact, of such information, will be incurring a lot of losses. Now, why these stakeholders are getting this privilege of having such information, right? Now the SEBI wants that these stakeholders have to invest some of the shares, some of their money into these shares for a particular period of time. For example, they have set one lock-in period. They have set one lock-in period wherein their money is being locked with such shares. Okay, they cannot sell such shares in the market. This is what we call that there is a skin in the game. Whatever game is going on, they have the key stakeholders have their skin in the game. In that case, they cannot escape. Even if the company is doing good, even if the company is doing bad, they have to stay there for the company along with other shareholders, right? So this requires mutual fund employees to invest a part of their salary into the fund. In this case, they are saying about they are talking about the mutual fund employees. Now the mutual fund employees helps you allocate your money, allocate your funds in a particular type of investment. They're recommending you to invest in such investment, but they themselves do not want to invest in such investment. Then how such investment is beneficial for you, right? And that is the requirement why the SEBI says that mutual fund employees are also going to invest in such investment. Okay, so there would be a skin in the game, right? Now SEBI wants to reduce the investment requirement. Now we already know what do we mean by such regulation. Now what the SEBI wants through this rule, the SEBI says that we are going to reduce such regulations on such people. And how they are going to introduce it? We already know it was introduced in 2021, skin in the game rule, and it is for the mutual fund employees with investors who invest in them. And this includes this key employees include CEO of the company, right? And they have to invest at least 20% of their salary in the mutual fund. This is very important. 20% of their salary must be invested towards the mutual fund, whatever they are saying. So there is a lock-in period of 3 years. At least for 3 years, they have to invest their money in such mutual fund. Now, what is the problem? There is some unfairness. Suppose there is a low salary employees who do not invest, who do not even suggest. Their role is completely different. They do not suggest for any kind of mutual fund investment. Now, why they are required to make such investment, such a big investment of 20% into the mutual fund? So they are saying that we are not going to include these low salary employees. Not all employees manage funds. The same thing they are talking about. Not all employees are involved in managing such investments. Not all employees are included in such mutual fund investment or managing funds. So people who are in the sale or admin role are not required to invest in such skin in the game rule. Then we have non-cash salary. Suppose some of the people do not get salary in cash. They get in ESOPs. Say the shares are being allocated to the company instead of paying cash. in such employees where they are not getting any kind of cash, they are not required to give any kind of, we can say, investment, 20% of investment towards this mutual fund investment. Let's have a regulation. So the current rule says that flat 20% must be invested by the employees, wherein the slab is going to be reduced by within a range of 10 to 18%. The employees who are getting non-cash compensation, that is ESOPs, they are being excluded from now on. Okay, as per the proposal, they are going to excluded from such calculation. Same rule for all designated employees. As per the current rule, all employees are required to make 20% of the investment. But as per the proposed change, the lower requirement, there would be lower requirement for the non-investment roles. Okay. Now the lock-in investment. Now as per the current rule, it says that lock-in investment for the employees who resigns is still there. But as per the proposed change, it says that early release of units are allowed for the resignation. Suppose there is an employee who resigns from the company, they can take back their money, they can withdraw their money early from such investment. No specific rules on fund allocation for the current rule. So as per the current rule, there is no specification that you have to invest this much of money in the riskier one or in the lower riskier one investment. But SEBI is proposing that 75% of the money, whatever invested by the key stakeholder, 75% of that must be invested in the higher risk scheme. The last point says that as per the current rule, the stress test results not publicly available. Okay? These are not publicly available. But now, as per the proposed, it is mandatory to disclose such stress test rules. अब stress test rules क्या होते हैं? That एक particular mutual fund investment को under stress test रखा जाता है, जहां पर उसे टेस्ट किया जाता है कि अंडर स्ट्रेस सिचुएशन हाउ विल दिस इन्वेस्टमेंट वर्क. ठीक है, हाउ विल दिस इन्वेस्टमेंट परफॉर्म. बहुत बुरा परफॉर्म कर रही है कि तब भी ठीक परफॉर्म कर रही है. तो ये जो डिस्क्लोजर थे ये पहले सबके पास अवेलेबल नहीं थे, बट नाउ एज पर दिस प्रपोजल दे आर सेइंग दैट दिस मस्ट बी मेड अवेलेबल to all of the investors. Let's have a discussion on the questions. So the RBI released the master directions. As per these directions, tell what is the CRAR requirement for the RRB and from when it is going to be applicable. Right. B is the right option here. So the tier 2 capital is the backup capital that supports the bank, but is less reliable than the tier 1 capital. As per the RBI master direction issued for the RRBs, the tier 2 capital maintained by RRB must not exceed which of the following. ठीक है, whenever we are going to calculate the capital adequacy for the RRBs, क्या लिमिट है tier 2 capital की? Right, C is the right answer. 100% of the tier 1 capital. This is the limitation. There are two components of tier 2 capital: general provision, loss reserves, and the investment fluctuation reserve. RBI's master directions, as per this RBI's master direction, what is the treatment for investment fluctuation reserve in the capital computation? ठीक है, whenever we are going to compute the capital for the tier 2 capital, tell me what is the contribution. Yes, it can be fully included in the tier 2 capital without any limit. There is no limit on the tier 2 capital for the IFR in the tier 2 capital. Okay, so PFRDA have issued the regulation for the UPS under NPS from when it is going to be effective. Okay, C is the right answer. April 1, 2025. SEBI relaxed the rules related to skin in the game rule. This requires mutual fund employees to invest their salaries in the funds they manage. Under the proposed changes in the skin in the game rule, at least dash of the mandated investment must be made in the high risk schemes. ठीक है, हाई रिस्क स्कीम में इतना तो इन्वेस्ट करना ही करना है एज पर द सेबीज प्रपोजल. नाउ टेल मी फ्रॉम विच ईयर was this skin in the game was rule was introduced. तो यहाँ से आप पे दो चीजें पूछी गई हैं. Okay, D is the right answer. Right. Okay, here we are done with the session. Tell me in case you have any doubt. Ayush says. Okay, Ayush, we will try for a revision session. Okay, monthly revision session. We will try for the same. Okay, I can't promise you, but I'll take this into consideration. Okay. Last 6 to 7 months current affairs are enough for the phase 1 and the phase 2. Okay. So I hope the session was fruitful for you. The topics that are being discussed here are going to be very important from the exam point of view. So include this into your preparation and keep on preparing for the finance current affairs, and best of luck for your examination. Goodbye, everyone.